I'm Katie, and today I wanted to show you about a few different ways that you can fold cuts of fabric in your fabric stash. So the first piece of fabric that I have is a fat quarter, and it's already got the fold lines in it, but it'll be a good rundown for what we're doing. You can use, I like using the cutting mat as a kind of folding mat because all the sizes are laid out. So I line it up with the zero here, 18 inches by 21 inches. And the first thing I want to do is get it down to 12 inches. So I take that first fold in towards me. And again, the second fold is going to be to create a 6-inch strip of fabric. So I pull the bottom up to the top here. And then for this fat quarter, I'm going to fold it in half and then half again. And that's going to be my fat quarter pile. It's going to be the same size for both my quarter yard and my half yard to come. So I'm just going to push this one out of the way. That's my fat quarter stash. Then to do quarter yards, I've got a piece of fabric here that if I just cross check, it's at least 9 inches. So that's my quarter yard mark. So I lay it out here and I put the selvage edge out towards my right. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is to bring it down to a 6-inch size. And now I can start to fold it in and fold it in. So again, it looks a lot like the fat quarter, but these ones are for just quarter yards, but they can sit and look really nice all on the shelf together. Now this next one is a little bit of a behemoth. It's not quite a yard, but it's at least a half yard. So just like what I did with the fat quarter, I first brought it to be 18 inches in size. So I'm gonna have to do a little rearranging here. There, now it's about 18 inches. So this feels a lot like the template from our fat quarter just a minute ago. And so just like I did with the fat quarter, bring it down to 12 inches, smooth it out a little, and then bring this up to be 6 inches. And so this one is our bulkiest piece out of all of them, the at least half yard piece. Fold it in half and fold it in half again. And this can be in a at least half yard pile. The next size of fabric is a full yard or a 2-yard piece. And for these, I've used comic book boards that are taped together to form a sort of bolt. And just as full disclosure, this one is 7.5 inches by, let's see, 5 inches. So this one is half of the original board that I was using. So if you want the information and a visual on what was purchased, the comic book boards, and it's probably hard to see, 7.5 inch by 10.5 inch, I cut off the top inch of them. And then 3 boards go together to make this little guy. And I use just the Scotch Creative strips, squares. They just come out on a little bolt here. All right, so we're going to need 1 for a 2-yard piece and 1 for a full yard piece. So let's get these out of the way here. I have a 1-yard piece of fabric. This one will feel very similar to these folds in that first I check how big it is, check, full yard. And so I'm gonna turn it into an 18-inch piece of fabric. So there's my 18-inch piece of fabric, and just like I did with this piece and this piece, I'm going to turn it into a 12-inch piece. And then I'm going to turn it into a 6-inch piece and fold it on down. Here's where I take my 1-yard board. So right here, my 1-yard board, I use that to start to create a little wrap around the fabric. Now, I can see I have like a bad fold because I really don't want it to end up like that. So I'm just going to unfold it and give this a little bit of a different end. So I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. So I'm going to get a few pins, usually 3 does the trick. And just putting the pins in. And then I have a nice little 1-yard bolt to be working with. So I'll just set this here. I'll set it here. And now we need a 2-yard bolt. That's the last size that I would dare put onto a bolt, because otherwise it's just going to weigh too much. The next size we're looking at fits one of those 2-yard bolts, and that is the 7.5 inch by 10 inch comic book board. So let's just get that out of the way. I have a 2-yard piece of fabric here, so it's a lot bigger. This has a different fold. So first, check how big, and I fold it to that 18-inch mark. Make it into an 18-inch piece of fabric. So the selvage edge is over here, straightening it up. There's a little extra. Thanks, Modern Domestic. And so I have my 18-inch piece of fabric. Looks now like a 1/2-yard piece of fabric. Instead of folding it into thirds, I'm going to fold it into a half. So turn it into a 9-inch piece of fabric. So as you can see, it's a 9-inch piece of fabric. Now I take the bolt that I've got, and that's where I start to do my rolling again. So I take my bolt and I roll it up onto the fabric. And then once I hit my end, I need pins. In full disclosure, it's recommended to use some nice pins just so that your pins aren't rusting in your fabric if you're using them longer. So there is the 2-yard bolt. So again, we've got fat quarter, 1/4 yard, we've got the 1/2 yard, and then our 1 and 2 yard options. Also, if you haven't met the sweetest assistant in the whole world, this is Annie. So, good girl. Thank you for helping. Thank you.